All right, welcome back to the KFYR Plus news desk. And workers across the country have responded with anger and confusion as they grapple with the Trump administration's aggressive effort to shrink the size of the federal workforce by ordering agencies to lay off probationary employees who have yet to qualify for civil service protections. Well, much of the administration's attention is focused on disrupting bureaucracy in Washington. The broad-based effort to slash the government workforce was impacting a far wider swath of workers. Joining me right now to talk about the sweeping cuts is Betsy Allen-Manning, a leadership expert. Welcome, Betsy. Thank you for taking some time today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jay. And you're so right. They are not doing slow and steady. They are doing cut and slash. And we don't know if this is actually going to be sustainable or work out for them in the long term.
Absolutely. So how do the recent mass layoffs ordered by the Trump administration, particularly targeting probationary federal employees, impact the overall morale and productivity of the federal workforce?
Yeah, so if you think about it, once they do these mass layoffs, what's remaining? You have to look at the people that are remaining there. What are they thinking? Because they don't feel lucky that they're the ones remaining. They actually feel anxious at that time. So this is where you see morale start to drop, disengagement start to rise, and then you see the culture start to fail. And this is the time, if leaders are not aware of what happens during mass layoffs and they're not preparing for the culture and the team ahead, then they're going to start to see other people pack up and they could be hemorrhaging some of their best talent and watching them leave as well.
Yeah. So, Betsy, what's the real impact of this kind of leadership?
Yeah, it depends on what people are optimizing for. So if you're looking at improving profits, if you're looking at improving efficiencies, you can trim some of the people off and that may help you in the short term. However, you also have to look at how this is going to impact the rest of the people that are there, the culture, how it's also going to impact innovation. When people are feeling anxious and scared, they tend to not innovate. So you could be actually slowing productivity and lowering your innovation during those times.
Where is the tipping point, and how do you know when cutting cost is smart and when it starts now hurting the company or even the economy?
Yeah, it's a great question. Think of it like your company, like a body, right? So if you cut unnecessary expenses, it's kind of like shedding weight off, but unnecessary expenses, are you trimming fat on your body or are you actually cutting off muscle that you actually need? So the key is knowing the difference between the two, whether you're trimming fat or if you're actually removing the foundation that holds everything together. And is looking at it as a whole, how is this impacting the overall health of the organization, of the productivity of government entities as well? Are we still able to function like we should, or are we actually going to lower productivity? And I think we should expect to lower some productivity and efficiencies for a bit while these trimmings are happening.
Okay. The Trump administration's directive to lay off probationary employees has raised legal and ethical concerns. Can you discuss some of the legal challenges that federal employees might face in contesting some of these layoffs?
I'm not a legal expert, so I won't speak directly to the legal side of it. What I will say is they made to start looking at, am I going to need help when I do leave? So start discussing, what does my severance package look like here? Do I need help from the government afterwards in order to get the funds that I need to keep living at this time? We saw it with the last administration. You saw that the Keystone Pipeline cut, I think it was 17,000 jobs. And so we're looking at this as well. So people need to start preparing themselves and getting themselves as ready as possible.
For the people who didn't get cut, what are they thinking, and what happens to company culture when cuts happen this aggressively?
Yeah, for the people remaining, they have what we call layoff survival syndrome. So like I said, they're not feeling lucky to remain there. They're actually feeling anxious. Some of them may be getting their LinkedIn profiles updated at this time. They're starting to look elsewhere. You will see the engagement drop with people. So if leaders are not aware of this, this is where they're going to lose some of their best talent. And by the way, companies are hurting for talent still. So they're going to be looking at some of these employees, yes, that maybe have gotten cut, but they're also going to look at employees that are still there and saying, you know what, if you're scared, we're hiring, come on over, we'll take you.
What strategies, Betsy, can leaders use to maintain morale and productivity in this aftermath of such layoffs?
Yeah, so one thing to look at is you're going to have a little bit less productivity. People are going to go into burnout during this time because they're going to wear more of the hats, doing more of the work for the exact same pay or sometimes even less pay. So it's addressing some of those burnout issues, letting people know this is not long term, this is short term. We're going to do everything that we can to help you out during this time, making sure people are still innovating, letting people know that are remaining, you are a valued employee. We want you to still contribute. We want you to still innovate, and making sure that you're addressing any kind of team conflict that rises during this time, and making sure that the culture still remains positive for those who are left.
Leadership at this time is very important, has an important role in helping employees now navigate the uncertainty and fear that comes with these layoffs going forward, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of fear around so many positions, and it's not just in government entities as well. Like we're seeing it with Southwest Airlines, tech companies, manufacturing. There's a lot of layoffs happening. And I will say for the people that may fear getting laid off, this is where for you to get yourself prepared at this time. Make sure your LinkedIn is up to date. Make sure your resume is up to date and ready to go. Putting those finances aside, say to have at least 6 months worth of your salary or your mortgage set aside, so that way you can live if something were to happen to you. Make the plans necessary, hope for the best, right? But you sometimes need to expect what may be coming.
As a federal employee, you must be fearful every day of getting a pink slip in your email box. How do you even do your job with that sort of anxiety? What are some of the effective ways to address the stress and anxiety that these layoffs can cause among some of the remaining workforce?
Yeah, like I said, one of the best things that you can do is making sure that you have everything up to date. Make yourself valuable to your company. Make yourself valuable in your government entity or agency that you're with. Show them how you're contributing. Show them how you're innovating. Show them how you are a key player within the company, so that they don't want to cut your position because they see the value in you. It's also networking with other people outside of your company as well. Just in case there are cuts coming, you want to make sure that that network is up to date. And you never know when someone says, hey, there's a job opening over here, come over with us.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Betsy Allen, but I think when we're talking about these Doge cuts, because we've seen it already firsthand in I think two industries with it was the nuclear scientists that they cut and decided, hey, by the way, we need those guys back, and they had scrambled to try to find them. Right? I mean, you're absolutely a necessary employee, but God, it feels like with Musk, he is coming along with an axe when he should be using a scalpel.
Yeah, and sometimes you see this a lot within organizations where, a new CEO comes in and says you have 2 weeks to prove yourself, or you're going to get cut, or they just come in and they just slash everybody and cut every single person off without realizing some of the valuable key people that you need. So I think sometimes it's good to come in and slash some of the talent that maybe wasn't working out, but you've got to be slow and steady about what talent do we actually need? What positions are valuable that we actually still need to keep? And I mean, you hit the nail on the head there is, we're cutting people that actually need to be in there. And we've got to be very careful about that. And leaders who are smart, take note of this. If if this is your company and you're looking to slash, to improve profits, or efficiencies, we need to take a look at what we can do to actually be efficient without cutting our key people.
Yeah. Betsy Allen, I've never been a federal employee, but I've been a radio employee for 28 years, and you probably know what the industry is like in radio. Reduction in forces happened every year around December. I mean, it was just amazing. I'm now in TV, got out of radio, but simply amazing how you had to survive in that industry. So I can empathize with what the federal workers are going through right now. And we've seen huge talent turnover with Elon Musk-led companies such as Twitter. When he first bought it, he got like I think 25 or 40% of the employees were let go right off the top. He brought in the kitchen sink for a photo op. Tesla lost key executives. Even SpaceX sees shakeups. What's the risk of turning a company into a revolving door?
Yeah, so this is the thing that I think some leaders don't think about. These are people. These are human beings, not just human doings. And that means that they have feelings. This is their livelihood that you're messing with when you're letting them go. It happens, we understand that, but also I think there's a certain level of compassion that comes along with letting people go. When you have a constant revolving door, you're constantly like Musk, just slashing, slashing, slashing. People don't trust the environment anymore. They lose trust in the leadership. They lose trust in the process, in the system altogether. So they will start looking elsewhere. You're going to see a ding in the culture. You're going to see a ding in the sense of team and with innovation and productivity as well. So this is where leaders really need to take note when they're watching this, saying, what do I need to do if I am maybe slashing some of that talent? What do I need to do to make sure that the remaining people don't see this as a revolving door, but they trust our leadership and they trust that we're going to actually keep them and we have their best interests at heart.
If Doge continues to slash budgets and programs, do you think it ultimately will strengthen or weaken the economy?
Yeah, and that really depends on how much he cuts, right? If he's just trimming excess, I think we'd be fine. If he keeps cutting really deep, so removing talent, reducing innovation, destabilizing teams, then I think it could weaken our economy short term. He may have a long-term game in mind that we're not we're not aware of, but you can't run the government like a startup. People need stability in order to do their best work and in order to stay and in order to contribute. So if we're going to have that, then there needs to be some reassurance. And I don't think we've heard them really come out and reassure the people that are still there.
Yeah. What are some key messages that agencies should convey to maintain public trust and confidence?
With their employees, letting them know that, hey, you have remained here. We see you as a valuable employee, as an asset to our company. We're going to do our best to make sure we take care of you during this time, addressing the burnout, like I said, making sure the culture stays positive, and then let people know we're all wondering. Jay, we're all wondering what is going to happen. How many more cuts are coming? I'm not in the government either, but I still wonder how many more cuts are coming. How is this going to affect us long term? We need some reassurance that these are in our benefit, and we need to know is how is this going to impact us all long term, not just the people that are being cut.
I've got one final question, but before I get to it, Betsy, I do want to ask, there has been talk of sending out Doge dividend checks. Probably won't amount to much. Is that a good idea? After all those cuts that you're making, people losing jobs, and you're going to send out a $150, $200 check, at the most maybe $500 to Americans?
Yeah, a friend and I were talking about this the other day and saying, you know what, can we just put that toward our $1 trillion debt and call it a day? So, you're saying you're cutting these costs elsewhere. Let's just put that where it needs to actually go, because that little portion, now it may make a difference to some people. So this is a compassion game at this point. Who really needs those funds at this time? But also, if you're doing this to trim down and get our $1 trillion debt down, then let's put it there where it's actually going to matter and make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Betsy, one final question. I have relatives that are federal workers. If you had one solid piece of advice for some of the federal workers that are watching right now, what would you tell them?
I would say if you have not been cut yet, you're remaining, you don't know if your job is at risk or not, make sure you do update on LinkedIn, update that resume, network with other people, prepare yourself mentally, take a deep breath, and come in and make yourself valuable at your job, innovate where you can, add massive value and contribute where you can, and just know that I believe God's got us no matter what. So just have a plan just in case, and walk with some positivity and confidence at this time that it will all work out in the end. It's just a matter of being prepared.
Betsy, one last question. I'm sorry. How does the federal government, how do they recruit going forward? How do they recruit the young, the best minds that they possibly can to fill some of these positions after? Because people are going to be terrified to get a federal position.
They are, and this is a great question. According to our National Workplace Trend Study that we've just conducted, the majority of our younger millennials and Gen Zs that are coming into the workforce, that are starting to lead and become managers in the workforce as well, the number one thing that they are saying that they want in the workplace are two things: trust and transparency. Two of the main things that are lacking right now with all of these cuts that are happening. So I think they're going to have a heck of a time trying to build up trust again. And one of the ways they can do it is by being more transparent. Here's what's coming. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're looking for. Here's the short-term impact, but here's the long-term game and the plan, and here's how you're a part of it. And if people can trust that and see themselves in the future, then I think they'll have an upper hand, a little bit of an edge at that time. But it's like I said, it's a compassion game right now. It's a trust and transparency game right now as well.
Absolutely. Betsy Allen-Manning, owner and CEO of Destination Workplace. Thank you so much for the time today. Appreciate the insight.
Thanks for having me.